The night was shrouded in thick darkness, illuminated only by the pale, solitary moon hanging in the somber sky. The wind howled through the barren trees, carrying a chill that seeped into the skin. The ground was blanketed in white snow, stretching endlessly like a cold, lifeless sheet. The world lay silent, broken only by the sound of footsteps echoing on the empty road. Noah, a young mechanic, was tall and lean, his face radiating kindness and sincerity. After a long day in the workshop, his rough hands bore the marks of tools and grease. Yet, his heart remained warm and full of compassion. He held firmly to his belief that, no matter how harsh the world might be, light could always be found in small, simple acts of goodness. Walking through the biting cold, Noah stuffed his hands into the pockets of his worn-out coat, seeking refuge from the icy wind. He was heading home to a small house on the outskirts of town, a place where he found peace and solace after tiring days. But tonight, something felt different. As he passed by an empty lot, once a bustling construction site now abandoned, a strange urge stopped him in his tracks. Noah froze, his feet seemingly anchored by an unseen force. The empty lot stretched before him, covered in snow, with remnants of debris faintly visible under the dim moonlight. He strained his eyes but saw nothing beyond the thick shadows. Just as he was about to continue walking, a faint sound pierced the silence. A soft whimper. Noah stopped abruptly, his heartbeat quickening. He listened closely. And there it was again, a fragile, trembling whimper that carried an undertone of pain. Without hesitation, Noah stepped into the lot, his boots crunching against the snow. "Is anyone there?" he called out, his voice echoing through the cold, still air. No reply came. Only the weak whimpering persisted, guiding him to a shadowy corner of the lot. Under the moon's faint glow, Noah spotted a small, motionless shape curled up in the snow. He approached cautiously, and as he drew near, he saw it clearly, a tiny Labrador puppy, abandoned and trembling, nearly buried beneath the thick blanket of snow. Its eyes barely opened, glinting with a fragile glimmer of hope amid its pain. Noah knelt down, gently lifting the puppy into his arms. It was so light, its small body shivering violently from the cold. He could feel its faint, labored breaths, as though its life was hanging by a thread. A wave of emotion washed over Noah, sympathy, concern, and a sudden resolve to save this fragile life. "It's going to be okay, little one. I've got you," he whispered, his voice carrying a promise. Removing his scarf, Noah carefully wrapped it around the puppy's frail body to keep it warm. Without a moment's delay, he cradled the pup close to his chest and hurried back toward the road leading home. As he walked, Noah held the puppy tightly, trying to share what little warmth he could. The wind howled fiercely, its icy breath biting at his face and seeping through his clothes. Yet, he pressed on, his pace quickening despite the cold numbing his body. His mind raced with questions. How could anyone abandon such a helpless creature? What could he do to save it? And most importantly, would it survive through the night? When Noah finally reached his house, he rushed inside and headed straight to the kitchen, where the faint warmth of a fireplace offered some comfort. He laid the puppy on a dry towel, carefully wiping away the snow and water clinging to its fur. Each touch revealed how frail the little creature was, its bones nearly visible under the damp, matted coat. Noah's heart ached at the sight. He poured some warm milk into a small bowl, gently spooning it toward the puppy's mouth. At first, it didn't respond. But after a few moments, its tiny tongue began to lap at the milk. Ever so weakly. A spark of hope ignited in Noah's heart. He continued his efforts, speaking softly to the puppy, as if his words could provide comfort and encouragement. That night, Noah stayed awake beside the puppy, never taking his eyes off it. He watched as its shallow breaths gradually grew steadier. The firelight flickered across his face, highlighting the exhaustion in his eyes, but also the unwavering determination etched into his expression. By the time the first rays of sunlight peeked through the window, Noah noticed the puppy stirring. Its eyes opened wider, gazing at him with a look of trust and gratitude. A small smile spread across Noah's lips as warmth flooded his chest, melting away the lingering chill of the winter night. Noah knew then that this meeting was no accident. This tiny Labrador, left to the mercy of the cold, had now become a part of his life, a poignant reminder that even in the harshest of winters, acts of kindness and love could create miracles. Milo, the name Noah would later give the small dog, had a tragic beginning to his life. He wasn't born into love or care but in an illegal breeding facility where lives were valued only in terms of profit. The dogs there weren't companions or cherished beings. To the operators of the facility, they were mere tools for breeding. Machines meant to churn out litters of puppies that could be sold for money. Milo first opened his eyes in a cramped, dark cage, surrounded by cold steel bars and the suffocating stench of filth. The chaotic barking of hundreds of other dogs filled the air, creating an overwhelming cacophony of desperation. From an early age, Milo was different from his siblings. A small defect in his front leg made it impossible for him to run or play like the others. Despite his efforts to keep up, Milo's steps were always uneven, marking him as useless in the eyes of the breeding operators. His difference elicited no sympathy. Instead, Milo was ignored, treated as a defective product. While the other puppies received minimal attention to prepare them for sale, Milo was left in the darkest corner of the cage, forgotten. He was given scraps of food, barely enough to survive, and had to fight for even those with other weaker dogs. Life in the breeding facility was a bleak existence. Milo and the other dogs were confined to filthy, cramped spaces where they couldn't move freely. The food was meager and inadequate, just scraps that failed to nourish them. The water was stagnant and dirty, collected in puddles at the edges of the cages. The temperatures inside fluctuated with the seasons, stiflingly hot in summer and bone-chillingly cold in winter. But the worst part wasn't the physical conditions, it was the indifference of the humans. The handlers didn't see the dogs as living creatures. They were dragged, shoved, and, at times, beaten into submission. Milo learned to lie still, to remain invisible, as any movement or sound could result in punishment. Every day was a struggle for survival. Then the inevitable happened. When Milo was 3 months old, the breeder realized he had no value. His leg deformity meant he couldn't be sold or used for breeding. To them, Milo was just a burden, a waste of resources. And in a world driven solely by profit, burdens had no place. That winter night, with a bitter wind cutting through the facility, the breeder, frustrated by poor sales, decided to dispose of all useless dogs. Milo lay curled up in his cage, unaware that his life was about to take a devastating turn. A rough hand grabbed Milo, pulling him from the cage. He let out a feeble whimper as he was thrown into the back of a truck alongside a few other rejects. The truck sped through the dark, carrying them far away. When it stopped, Milo was unceremoniously dumped onto the freezing ground. His small body hit the snow with a thud, knocking the breath out of him. Milo tried to stand, but his legs trembled, too weak to hold him up. Around him, the sound of the engine faded into the distance, leaving Milo alone in an empty lot, surrounded by nothing but snow and the biting cold. Milo lay there, his body freezing bit by bit. The hours dragged on endlessly. He didn't understand why he had been abandoned, why his life had come to this. His small, once curious eyes were now dull with exhaustion and despair. But even in his suffering, Milo clung to life. His tiny heart continued to beat, though faintly, like a fragile flame battling against a relentless storm. As the pale moonlight bathed the desolate lot, Milo may have thought this was where it all would end. But fate hadn't completely abandoned him. In that cold, dark night, footsteps approached, and a pair of warm hands lifted him, carrying him toward a new life where his old wounds would be healed by love and kindness. Noah held Milo close, feeling the tiny body trembling from cold and exhaustion. He tried to share his warmth through the scarf wrapped tightly around the dog, carefully carrying Milo home with a mix of worry and hope. As he stepped through the small door of his house, Noah immediately placed Milo on a soft blanket near the fireplace. The flickering flames cast a warm glow, driving away the chill that had enveloped them both. Noah gently dried the snow from Milo's fur, his every motion tender and caring. Milo, with his dim eyes and faint breaths, lay still, as if understanding that he had finally been saved. The next morning, Noah wasted no time and took Milo to the nearest veterinary clinic. After a thorough examination, the vet confirmed that Milo had suffered severe abuse. His body was malnourished, with old bruises still visible on his skin, and his deformed front leg had hindered his mobility. But the most reassuring news was that Milo could recover with proper care. "He'll need a lot of love and patience," the vet said, her eyes full of compassion. Noah nodded, filled with determination. He knew that he hadn't just pulled Milo from the cold of a winter night, but he also needed to help the dog escape the shadows of his past. The first few days in Noah's home were challenging. Despite the warm and safe environment, Milo remained deeply fearful. He curled up in a corner, too afraid to approach people. Sudden movements or loud noises made Milo flinch, his eyes filled with panic. Noah realized that helping Milo heal required more than just food and shelter. He needed time and patience to rebuild the dog's trust in humans. Noah started with the simplest gestures. Each day, he sat near Milo without forcing interaction. He placed a bowl of food next to him, softly calling Milo's name and waiting. At first, Milo only watched from a distance, his eyes filled with hesitation. Gradually, Noah's patience convinced Milo that he posed no threat. One day, Milo cautiously approached, his unsteady legs carrying him toward the bowl. Noah didn't rush to touch Milo, instead offering a reassuring smile and gentle words. It was a small moment, but for Noah, it marked a significant breakthrough. Over time, Milo began to open up. The wounds on his body healed, and along with them, the scars in his heart started to fade. Noah was always there, providing a sense of safety. He took Milo for walks around the small garden, letting him feel the warmth of sunlight and hear the cheerful chirping of birds. They played simple games with a soft ball, ensuring Milo didn't feel pressured. Every time Milo attempted to run or jump despite his weak legs, Noah cheered him on, his eyes shining with pride. Gradually, Milo transformed from the scared dog huddled in the corner into an affectionate companion. He started to approach Noah on his own, resting his head on Noah's lap when he wanted to be petted. Milo learned to trust, his eyes lighting up with joy whenever Noah returned home. Happy barks replaced the fearful silence of his past. Milo not only found safety but also discovered love, something he had never known before his rescue. One day, as Noah worked on a machine in his workshop, Milo hobbled over, carrying a wrench Noah had forgotten. The sight made Noah laugh, but it also filled his heart with warmth. Milo was no longer just a dog he had saved. He had become a loyal friend, always eager to help and bring happiness to Noah's life. Whenever Noah felt sad or exhausted, a simple nuzzle from Milo was enough to comfort him. From a tiny creature abandoned in the freezing night, Milo had become a symbol of hope and renewal. Noah hadn't just saved Milo, he had gained a valuable lesson about patience and the power of love. On cold winter nights, as they sat by the fire with Milo nestled in his lap, Noah knew this dog had changed his life in ways he never expected. And for Milo, Noah wasn't just his savior, he was his whole world. The light guiding him out of his darkest days. Noah couldn't shake the image of Milo from his mind, the frightened eyes, the emaciated body marked with scars that told a story of suffering. Despite rescuing Milo and witnessing the dog's remarkable recovery, Noah felt an unrelenting urge to uncover the truth about Milo's past. He began to wonder, who had abandoned Milo? And how many other dogs were still trapped in similar conditions? Determined to find answers, Noah spent countless nights researching and gathering information about illegal dog breeding operations in the area. At first, the information he found was fragmented. Stories in local newspapers mentioned past raids, complaints from residents about incessant barking and foul odors from isolated lots. Slowly, the pieces came together to form a larger picture. Noah focused on one specific location, a suspected breeding facility that had never been fully investigated. He believed this was where Milo had been imprisoned. Refusing to let the opportunity slip, Noah began collecting evidence, including satellite images of the area and testimonies from nearby residents. Each step strengthened his resolve to act. Noah took his findings to the local police. Initially, he feared that his evidence might not be convincing enough. But his sincerity and determination captured the officers' attention. They saw in him not just a dog owner who loved his pet but a person fighting for the innocent. The police agreed to launch a formal investigation, and Noah was invited to assist. He became more than just an informant, he was a crucial part of the rescue effort. The days leading up to the raid were filled with tension and anticipation. Noah and the police planned meticulously, from identifying the best time to strike to ensuring they could approach the facility without drawing attention. Noah's memories of Milo fueled his determination to leave no dog behind. When the day of the raid arrived, Noah accompanied the officers to the breeding facility. The sound of barking echoed from within, confirming his worst fears. The raid was swift yet intense. The operators were apprehended, and dozens of dogs were rescued from appalling conditions. Cramped, filthy cages, emaciated bodies, and frightened eyes told the story of their suffering. Some dogs were severely injured, while others were too terrified to move. Noah, with unwavering resolve, helped carry each dog out of the cages, feeling their faint breaths and sensing their desperate need for compassion. He knew that every life saved was a victory, every rescued dog a chance to start anew. As the dogs were transported to safety, Milo, now healthy and strong, became a symbol of the campaign to raise awareness. Milo's story, from an abandoned pup on a freezing night to a loyal companion, spread far and wide. His journey was more than a tale of rescue, it was a call to action and a reminder of humanity's responsibility to protect the voiceless. With the help of the police and animal welfare organizations, Noah organized workshops and shared Milo's story to highlight the cruelty of illegal breeding operations. The local community, moved by Milo's story, began to act. Volunteers joined rescue efforts. Donations poured into animal protection organizations. And petitions called for stricter regulations against illegal breeding. The dogs rescued during the raid slowly recovered under the care of veterinarians and volunteers. Many of them, once healthy, found loving homes with families who cherished them. Milo became a symbol of resilience and the transformative power of love. Reflecting on his journey, Noah felt a profound sense of pride and gratitude. From rescuing Milo on a cold winter night to aiding in the liberation of dozens of other dogs, he realized that compassion could not only save a life but also spark change. And with Milo by his side, a loyal friend and a source of inspiration, Noah knew he would continue this mission. Fighting for those who could not fight for themselves. Milo and Noah were no longer just a man and his dog, they had become inseparable companions. Day by day, their bond grew deeper. Milo was no longer the fearful, broken dog he once was. His golden fur now gleamed under the sunlight. And his eyes sparkled with joy and trust in life. Milo had overcome the shadows of his past. Not only because of Noah's love and patience but also due to his own resilience. He had learned to run and play. Despite his imperfect leg, which was no longer an obstacle, Milo became a beacon of recovery and hope. Exuding positivity and bringing happiness to everyone he encountered. For Noah, rescuing Milo had transformed his life in ways he never expected. Once a quiet man who spent most of his time in a mechanic shop, Noah found a new purpose. Milo was not just a dog he saved but a companion who taught him about compassion, patience, and the value of never giving up. Every time he saw Milo playing in the garden or rolling on the carpet, Noah felt a profound sense of happiness. He realized that rescuing Milo wasn't just about saving a life, it was about rediscovering faith in humanity's capacity for goodness. Milo's story didn't remain confined to Noah's small home. As the tale spread, it inspired countless people in the town. Adoption of stray and abandoned animals, once rare, became a growing movement. Families who had previously hesitated to adopt now saw the potential in giving animals like Milo a second chance. The local animal shelter received unprecedented support. From donations to volunteers, workshops on caring for and protecting animals were organized. With Milo as a symbol of hope, his image present in every talk as a living testament to the power of kindness. The story also prompted the community to think more deeply about their responsibility toward other lives on the planet. Small actions began to snowball into significant change. Families taught their children the importance of treating animals with respect. Young people, moved by Milo's story, volunteered for campaigns against animal cruelty. Local law enforcement, buoyed by the success of the raid on the illegal breeding facility, committed to continuing their efforts to dismantle such operations. Throughout this time, Noah continued to share his story and Milo's journey, hoping to spread a simple yet profound message: every life deserves a second chance. He believed that everyone had the ability to change someone's life, whether it was a small dog or a person in need. Milo had shown him that even the smallest act of kindness could lead to extraordinary results. For Noah, rescuing Milo wasn't just about helping a helpless creature, it was a journey of self-discovery. He realized that in a world filled with challenges, compassion was the guiding light that illuminated the path forward. One evening, as Noah and Milo sat together on the porch, The golden hues of the setting sun bathed their small garden. Milo lay curled at Noah's feet. His eyes half closed. Peaceful and content. Noah gently stroked Milo's head, feeling the warmth of his body. In that moment, Noah smiled. His heart filled with gratitude. He knew he had not only transformed Milo's life but also contributed to a broader change in the community. And it all started on a cold winter night when he heard a faint whimper from an empty lot. A simple decision, born out of kindness, had changed everything. The story of Milo and Noah is a powerful reminder that love and patience can heal even the deepest wounds. It teaches us that no one is worthless. And every life is worth saving. Ultimately, each of us, no matter our position, can make a difference if we are willing to reach out and offer a second chance to those who need it most.